Hello, everyone. So we're going to get started now. If you have any questions throughout this webinar, please feel free to ask the questions in the GoToWebinar app in the top right corner of your screen. You should have a questions section there, and you can go ahead and ask questions throughout. I'm going to try to answer the questions at the end. We have a lot of information to go over in a relatively short period of time, so I will get to as many of the questions as I can at the end, and anything that we don't get to at the end, we can have team members from BetterCloud reach out to you afterwards. So thank you again for joining. Today we're going to be talking about 5 ways your job will change in the next 5 years, and this is part of our Cloud IT webinar series. So for those of you that haven't joined one of these webinars in the past, we've been doing this for about 6 months. We do a webinar every month, and we go over best practices, research we've done in the industry, other people's research, challenges, solutions around specific cloud applications. And if you're interested in the schedule, you can go to bettercloud.com/resources for the full schedule there. It's been a great series. We've gone over things that are everything from very Google Apps specific for IT administrators on that side, all the way to the webinar we're doing today, which is really more around the industry and the changes that are occurring. So today, the agenda, I'm going to be going through some of the changes that are going on in the cloud IT landscape. Again, most of this for some of you is probably going to just be a review, and then talking about what we're seeing in terms of the role of the cloud IT professional and the changes that are occurring in that role, and the mindset changes that we believe that you need to have going forward. So again, I think anyone who's joining us today is already on board with this concept. We are going through, I would argue, the biggest shift in IT in decades. I mean, the shift to the cloud, just the cloud broadly, whether that's infrastructure as a service, whether that's SaaS applications, that shift is easily the biggest shift to happen in IT in decades. And the beginning, in my opinion, the beginning of that is the shift from the legacy messaging collaboration tools, the Exchange, Lotus Notes, GroupWise, to Google Apps for Work and Office 365. It starts there. Those platforms touch every person in an organization, and because of that, they're the most broadly used. They're the most influential or impactful inside of an organization, and so it starts there. But it goes way past that. And in all the research that we've done, we've seen that organizations are going to run 100% of their IT in the cloud within the next 10 years. The majority of organizations, regardless of size, are going to be doing that. What you're looking at here is data from the most recent cloud IT survey that we conducted here at BetterCloud. Survey was done of over 1,000 IT professionals from organizations of all sizes, from 10 users to 100 to 10,000 to 50,000, across the spectrum, every industry, all over the world. And what you see here is that, of course, smaller organizations are already, in many cases, running 100% of their IT in the cloud, and that's going to continue. But even the larger organizations, it's heading in that direction. And so you different places on this spectrum, but the shift is occurring, and I'm not sure that anyone out there will argue that this is occurring. And so what we've done is we've looked at all of this information. This is what we live day in, day out. This is what we've been living for years, and specifically at BetterCloud for 4 years. We've been exclusively working with cloud IT professionals. I mean, that is 100% of our customer base here at BetterCloud are the forward-thinking IT professional, the modern IT professional. That's who we've been working with, and we work with thousands, tens of thousands across, like I mentioned, all industries all over the world. And so we've learned a lot from our conversations. We recently held our Cloud IT Summit in New York City, and we had 80 IT professionals with us for 2 days and spent a lot of time digging into the exact information I'm going to share today. And we, on a regular basis, twice a year, we send out surveys to over 95,000 IT professionals across over 80,000 organizations all over the world to try to understand what's happening. How are they adopting cloud applications? What challenges are they facing? What are they excited about? What are they looking forward to? What projects do they have on the horizon? And so we've been doing this for 4 years. We've been having these conversations. We've been surveying our customers and our contacts, and we've really identified some very interesting trends and some very interesting changes that are occurring, and so we wanted to share those with you today, because for me, I want to talk about how your job is going to change. And we got a number of emails. I actually personally received some emails prior to this webinar. I received some emails from people who joined today asking for some specific skills, things that you could add to your resume, certifications that you could get, and to cover some of that. I just want to be very clear that that's not what we're going to be covering here today. Really, the focus is ways your job is going to change, mindset, that pieces of your mindset that may have to change, or things you have to add to your mindset of how you approach your job on a day-to-day basis, and just at a broader level, the things that are probably happening in your organization that are going to drive changes in your job and your responsibilities. And so we're not going to be talking about very specific, this certification or that certification. That's not really the focus of today. But given the number of questions I received about that, that is something that we will do in the future, because I think those are excellent questions. So we'll probably do that for one of our future Cloud IT webinars that we do. So I feel personally, and we as a company, our investors, the partners that we work with, feel that this is the golden age of IT. The next 10 to 15 years is a really important time for all of us, and for all the IT professionals that are out there in organizations that are going through this paradigm shift. It's an exciting time. It's an important time, and I think that IT, when you look at organizations, any business, every industry is becoming technology enabled. Every industry, restaurant, the hospitality industry, transportation industry, the retail, insurance. I mean, everyone, finance, everything is becoming technology enabled. Every industry and every business in those industries needs to become technology enabled in order to be successful. That is I believe, a statement of fact that is being talked about a lot, especially very recently, and in these organizations, in these businesses that are becoming technology enabled, you, the IT professional, your role is going to become a lot more prominent and a lot more strategic. And you can become enablers. You could become the heroes within your organization, because you are the ones that understand these technologies. You are the ones that understand how to implement these technologies. You understand the legacy environments that need to be replaced. This is the skills that you have already today, and that I believe that you can gain, and that you should try to gain in the near future. I think sets up very nicely for the coming 10 to 15 years of your careers, and of IT as a profession. I think is going to be looked at very differently, and I think is already starting. And we've seen this in some of our customers. It's a very different role when it's 100% cloud, when all the applications are running smoothly, when they can show the efficiency that it's driven in their organization. So I just want to start with that at a high level. This is a strong belief that we have here, and that we have data to back up. And I think it's very exciting. And I think the opportunity is huge for all of you. So I'm going to now go through the 5 areas that we believe your role or your mindset or the challenge you're going to face, where things are changing. And again, we appreciate any feedback, any commentary. Please let us know in the questions comment section of the GoToWebinar app. We'll be asking some poll questions that we'd love your feedback on there. And again, at the end of all of this, if we don't have a chance to touch on everything, I welcome conversations with anyone who's here today who has any feedback for based on what you saw. So the first area is strategic planning. So what we mean by strategic planning here is it is important, I believe, and this is different from the legacy environments that exist today or have existed. We believe it is important to really, with the business, come up with a strategic plan for how you are going to roll out cloud applications. How are you're going to get to 100% cloud over the next 2, 4, 5, 7, 10, 15 years, and really agreeing to what is the philosophy of the organization, coming up with that strategic plan so that you can execute against that plan at much faster and be much more responsive to the needs of the organizations in the short term. So what I mean by that is when you look at what's going on with cloud applications, the number of applications being brought into the workplace, the amount of applications under the shadow IT umbrella, that is just increasing at a tremendous pace. And you need to be able to react to that. It's a pretty new phenomenon that your users are bringing their technology to work. That is a new phenomenon. 10 years ago, there were no technologies. There was no consumerization of IT. There were no technology. There wasn't BYOD. That didn't exist. And so today, you're dealing with that. And in order to deal with that effectively, again, in our opinion, with the data that we've seen, there has to be a strategic understanding of what needs to occur. And a plan and an ability to react to these applications coming into the workplace. We've seen one organization we work with has put together a very interesting, they call it their OPP, which is their Open Pilot Policy. And their way is that they've put together a policy where anyone in the organization can test any application. And then there is a structured way for those applications that are very popular, that users want or lines of business want to roll out. There's a very structured way to do that, and they've had to put that in place to respond to the number of applications that, again, were under the shadow IT umbrella. And it's working great, and there are applications that they never heard of that are now really some of their core applications running their business. So it's becoming much more of this advisor role, internal consultant, and it's not the IT work that you were doing around maintenance or upgrades or increasing storage or desktop support. A lot of that is going away. A lot of that work is going away because it's being offloaded to the cloud platforms, to the cloud applications. You no longer have to worry about the back-end email server that you have in your office or in your facility. You don't have to worry about that because Microsoft is taking care of that or Google is taking care of that. And they're running your email for you. You're not doing upgrades because upgrades are happening automatically every X number of weeks, X number of months. So the role, just at a very high level, the role is much more strategic than it is tactical. And what we did is we pulled quotes. These are verbatim quotes from the most recent survey that we did that I mentioned before. We had 1,500 IT professionals respond to this survey, and many of them, we had thousands of write-in responses about what is changing in their day-to-day job. And these are quotes directly from your peers. So I'm able to focus more on strategic planning, worry less about day-to-day issues on an operations level, it's fantastic. This is an organization, a smaller organization's been on Google Apps for a couple of years, and this is a person who has over 20 years of IT experience. And when I had a conversation with this exact person, and what you hear is that the role has changed for that person, and their job is not about maintaining and maintenance and upgrades. It's not, and they're thinking much more about the long term, and they're doing planning, and they're being more strategic to their organization. So I think that these are very telling. For us, we also want to talk a little bit in each one of these 5 areas about how can you get there. And how can you achieve this? How can you implement this in your own day-to-day work and career? And so, I think the 2 areas here, number one, this is still new. There are not that many organizations that are running 100% in the cloud. This is still a new concept. I think speaking to the cloud partners that exist out there, these cloud consulting organizations, speaking to them, engaging with them is very helpful. Many of the top partners have been out there for the last 6-7 years and have really led this change in the market. They've in many cases hundreds, thousands of migrations to the cloud and deployment of cloud applications. And so I really do believe that there's a huge value in these cloud partners, these cloud consulting organizations. The other area is with your peers, and there are not many of them. I will admit that there are not too many. There are not that many networking groups. There are no, actually today there is not a cloud IT certification. It does not exist. That's become standard. And so, but speaking to your peers, it's a very interesting experience. Again, at the Cloud IT Summit that we did, it was amazing to hear people from different size companies in different organizations at different stages of their rollout of cloud applications, all of them having similar challenges around strategy. Like I mentioned, this OPP, this open pilot policy, that was one of the things discussed, and many other organizations had something similar. They had a board of people from different parts of the organization that would that any user could come to that board and show that they had done that they had an application that they really wanted to deploy. They talked about how they didn't standardize in all cases on a single application for cloud storage, for example. It wasn't all on Drive or OneDrive or SharePoint. In some cases, they needed a product like Dropbox or Box or Ignite for a specific department, for a specific use case. And it was amazing to hear people talk about these challenges. And I think there's this again, this is an exciting time to be in your roles, but working with experts, working with other people dealing with the same challenges, I think is very important. The next area is training and change management. And another area that you're going to say, well, I do that today, or I've been doing that for my whole career. But what we have seen is that many times in the world 10 years ago, 15 years ago, in a legacy environment, the training and change management was done up front. A new person starts in the company and they're trained on the systems that they need to use. They're trained by their line of business, and the next training or training that happens is probably when the next version of Office comes out, the next version of Outlook, the next version of Word, maybe not even, but that's when it would occur. And now it's very different. These applications are living and breathing applications. They're changing all the time. Most cloud applications you use in your organization most likely are being updated at least 10 times a year, at least. In some cases, in Microsoft and Google's case, it's hundreds of times a year. And so understanding these new features that are coming out, understanding the new capabilities, rolling out new technologies is happening much more often. You're not deploying one platform that's going to cover everything. You're deploying 20 SaaS applications that are very specific for specific use cases. And so your role, I believe, is around training and change management. There's a huge opportunity there because, again, that puts you in front of a larger portion of your organization in many cases, and you are responsible for taking these SaaS applications you've already invested your company's money in, and leveraging all the new functionality that's coming out, and not waiting to do that every 4 years or every however many times an upgrade cycle would come, with your legacy software, but instead somehow leveraging that on an ongoing basis, and helping your organization make the most out of these applications that you're using. So I think that it goes from being a one-time or once every X number of years type of role to something that's much more ongoing. And again, if you look at some of these quotes from your peers, I love this first one because I think this speaks exactly to what's happening. End user training is more of a requirement now, especially as the platform evolves and changes more rapidly than legacy solutions did. And that's an understatement, more rapidly by a lot. I mean, again, in the for those of you who don't know, we have a site. It's called The Guru, TheGouru.com. We send out an email every day, a newsletter every single day with new features from Google, the new update that came out. We have a site called 365ninja.com. That's another site that same idea. Newsletter goes out every day to tens of thousands of people talking about the new features that were released in Office 365. This is it's happening daily, literally. And so staying on top of that and being able to take a relevant update and share that update with your company and with your users, and then see that update made them more efficient, that's really powerful. And that can be done much more regularly. So our suggestions, I think understanding change management, understanding it as a skill that it's different than just training. It's different than just showing people how to use a specific a piece of software. It's showing them how to go from this to this, how to do this task that they used to do over here and maybe even offline. How do they bring that online? How do they automate their tasks? How do they just get as much as possible out of these platforms, out of these SaaS applications? And so being available to your users on a more ongoing basis, being available to talk about, again, more strategic ways that they can use these platforms, understanding what is happening in the platform. You're not learning about the release of Exchange 2007. That's not what you're doing. You're having to stay up to date on a regular basis, and that is challenging. But I feel is exciting. I think that's a great opportunity for you. The next area is constantly optimizing and enhancing these applications. So, for example, you may roll out a platform like Google Apps, and you may say we're only rolling out Mail, Calendar, Contacts, and we're not going to roll out Drive for right now. Staying on top of that and having a plan to leverage that piece of the platform, or Hangouts, or Skype for Business in the Microsoft case, or is constantly coming back to these applications and understanding what else can be enabled, what tweaks can you make to improve how these applications are operating for your end user. It's not a set it and forget it. Again, it's a living and breathing application that's changing on an ongoing basis, and you have to stay on top of that because there's always new features, there's new settings. You roll something out, or a line of business rolls out a specific product, and it's going back and understanding if there's a way to take that and put it into other lines of business. It's going there and understanding if there needs to be more role definition happening inside of these applications, if it needs to be tied into some sort of single sign-on application that you have. It's the importance of going back and understanding that this is not something you set and forget and leave for years. This is something that needs to be constantly tweaked and constantly given that tender, loving care. That something it needs that attention. And this is just an idea, again, some quotes, but it's just the concept that people are constantly coming back and looking at other areas that they can roll out, other applications that they can enable, pieces of applications that they can enable. So, in my view here, understanding new applications, we put an example here, Slack. Slack is an application that has really taken off recently, and in many organizations, again, depending on size and industry, but you'll find that Slack is probably running, the free version of Slack is probably running somewhere in your organization. Understanding that and understanding what Slack is, how it can be useful, and being able to either introduce that into the organization or speak to why it can't be, or speak to where it fits in your long-term roadmap, understanding those things, that becomes part of your role. I think it's staying up to speed on all of these applications and understanding what's coming into your environment and figuring out how to leverage that. We've seen people, for example, with Google Drive as a very specific example, where they didn't turn off Google Drive. So the business decided to roll out Google. The IT department helped with that rollout, with the change management, with the training, and they didn't turn off Drive, but they didn't technically roll out Drive and say this is our storage system of choice. And what they found is that 6 months later, that they had users in there creating hundreds of thousands of documents, uploading documents, and it was already out of control because it had taken on a life of its own. And it's important to be on top of that so that you can actually embrace that usage and that excitement about a specific application, but do it in a controlled way. The next is around integrations. So when you look at these SaaS applications, you're going to have many of them running in your environment. We today at BetterCloud have 94 SaaS applications that run in our environment. And so when you have that many and we're a relatively small organization, 150 people having almost 100 SaaS applications running. And when you look at that, you need to make sure that are talking to each other. You need talking to each other. You need to make sure that these applications, that you have a system of record that for a specific area of or data set, and that data is coming from that system of record into the other applications, or vice versa, and updating that system of record. That most SaaS applications you're going to be working with have open APIs and give you the ability to tie them to other SaaS applications. And so having the difference between having 90 disparate SaaS applications versus 90 completely integrated, seamless SaaS applications, it makes a huge, huge difference. And our approach at BetterCloud specifically, so I will just speak for BetterCloud, is that we've taken this best-in-class approach to our SaaS application selection. Instead of selecting the one SaaS application that does X tremendously, Y tremendously, but Z not so well, but still using it for Z just because we already made the purchase. That's not the approach we take. Instead, we will buy the best application to do X, the best application to do Y, the best application to do Z. I believe that is that you would want that. You would want best in class. But when you do that, you now have 3 different systems doing related tasks, and they need to talk to each other. Otherwise, it creates more pain than it does good. So when you look at the usage, this, like I mentioned, this is again data from one of our most recent surveys, where you can see that no matter the size of the organization, the number of SaaS applications that are used today is already pretty high. And these are the SaaS applications that IT knows about, to the number of SaaS applications that are going to be used in 2 years. You look at the enterprise number, it's amazing. Every segment is the same. It's the speed of adoption is increasing at an amazing rate. And so this is the need is going to become more and more apparent. So you see, if you're running on Google Apps, you may want that to be your central identity platform. You may want to get rid of Active Directory. You may want to, who knows? But tying Google into your other services and the surrounding applications, tying Google to Salesforce, tying Google to your ticketing system. That is very, very important. That's an important piece of the future. And so for you, how you can prepare for this. I mean, first, I think having the skills to build these integrations is important. And whether you have the skills, or you have someone on your team with the skills, or you have a partner, like I mentioned before, a cloud partner who has that skill set themselves, having that available to you is extremely important, I believe, for what's going to come in the next 5-10 years. As this app proliferation continues, this SaaS application proliferation continues, you're going to need that skill set in-house. You're going to need a partner who has that skill set, or you're going to need an application that does that for you. But either way, connecting your applications is going to be very important, and making sure data is flowing through them makes sense. And also, when you're putting together the plan, let's say today you're only leveraging Google or Office 365 as an example. That becomes the foundation of your cloud stack, if you will. And if that's the case, you want to start planning. If I go back to number one now, you want to start doing your strategic planning about what are you going to add, when will you add it, do you have an integration plan for when you add it? Having that in place is very important. So the fifth and final item is reporting and long-term projects. And so this is where I think you can get credit for the work that you're doing, and where you can change this perception, like I said before, from being a cost center to being an enablement center. I believe that you need to be able to pull the data from your applications, from how your users are working, to show the efficiencies that are gained for your business. I think I've mentioned this quote before, where a very large organization that we were talking to in North America, large 20,000 person organization, and when I asked them why are you making this shift to the cloud, why are you leveraging all these cloud applications, and the answer from their leader, the IT leader there, was very simple, which was we want to drive collaboration across our organization, and we believe that the cloud helps us do that. And the reason we want to drive collaboration is because we want to drive innovation. And ultimately, that innovation is going to drive our business growth. And IT wanted to be seen as the one leading that charge. And I think that's the opportunity, but you need to be able to tie back to real efficiencies and real benefits. And so when you look at this, you have to keep coming back to what you're doing and making sure that it's making that impact, measuring that impact, and then sharing that impact with the team, with the lines of business, going to the salesperson, the sales leadership, and saying, because of these 3 integrations that we did and these 4 SaaS applications we deployed and all of this change management work that we did, your team is actually able to make 20% more phone calls and emails and deals closed because of that. That is you can do that. You can prove that. With the right reporting, you can prove that. And that's very powerful to be able to do that. And it really changes how IT is perceived and the reality of what you're delivering to the organization. So, I think that's just an important piece of this next generation of IT. And there's a lot of data, but again, if I go back to kind of the concept of building this foundation and building the strategic plan, if you understand where your business is, the business is trying to go in the coming years, and if you have authority to help take them there, and if you can get that authority and you can roll out these SaaS applications and you get the users using them and you understand what the goals are, you can get the data to measure against that. And it's just important to make sure that you're thinking about that up front, and that you're ensuring that the SaaS applications you're using give you that. And and making this something repeatable that you can do by SaaS application, by line of business, by organization, whatever it may be inside of your group, your organization. So I'm just going to say again, I believe we are going into this, and we are kind of at the beginnings of this golden age of IT. I think that the opportunity you have in your organizations is huge. I've seen this with our customers. I've seen this with the customers that have really embraced this. They are a very important piece of their organization's long-term business. The key there is business strategy, because everyone needs to be technology enabled. Executives know that. They're aware of that. They're becoming aware of that if they don't know already. And you have an opportunity to make a very big impact in your organizations and really become the heroes and help with this time of transformation. And so I'm excited about this. I know that I'm preaching to the choir in many cases here for many of the people that are here joining us today. But this is something that we want to talk more about. We want to drive this message home to the executives, to the business lines in your organizations. We're going to be working on that in the coming months and years, is really to drive that home, to make that clear. So again, thank you very much for joining today. I appreciate you making the time to join us. I hope this is helpful. We'll be sending out some more information after this. We'll be sharing some information with those of you that joined today. And if you're looking for our future schedule, you can go to bettercloud.com/resources. We have some pretty good sessions coming up. I believe our next one is going to be a customer panel, which is the first time we're going to do that in our Cloud IT webinar series. So we're going to have a number of customers come on and join us. I'm very excited for that. I think that's going to be an excellent event. So again, thank you very much for joining today, and thank you for and if you have any questions, comments, I'm going to go through them here. There are quite a few, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get to them on this webinar, but I'm going to go through them, and we'll try to get answers out to all of you in the next couple of days, along with the follow-up. So again, thank you for joining us today. If you'd like to email me, my email address is right there, david@bettercloud.com. So if anyone has any questions or comments or feedback on the presentation and what I shared today, I'd love that. I'd love to hear your thoughts, because this is something, as you can probably tell, this is something I'm very passionate about. This is what we believe is going on, and we want to help organizations and professionals like you achieve these things in a variety of ways, but it's something that's very important to me. And so if you have feedback, if you have comments, please share them with me directly, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. And if you want to set up a time to talk one-on-one, happy to do that as well. So thank you again for joining us today.